It's cool, so
Sir, I'll be right with you, okay? I'll be right with you. Okay, all right. I don't think you finished getting our order. Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hi, sir. May I take your order, please?
yes, you may. Let me have a stack of inspiration, a cup of motivation, a side of excellence with just a dash of extraordinary, and bring me an order of blessings with the plate of satisfaction, followed by a bowl of laughter with just a sprinkle of some personality. Better than that, just give me the Lady T show.
T, 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 T. Lay, D, lay, D, T, 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 lay, D, T, 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 lay, D, T. Lady T is on your TV. Call everyone you know. It's time for the Lady T show. Don't you turn the TV, you will miss all of the information, inspiration, motivation. Now let me hear my Lady T fans. Lady T, Lady T, Lady T, Lady T fans, yeah. Lady T, Lady T. Now let me hear my Lady T fans. Lady T, Lady T, Lady T. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's time for the Lady T show. All right, cut. It's a wrap. Cut. Stop. Hello, and welcome back to the Lady T show. I'm happy to be here, and I know this is an odd time because we're usually here second and fourth Sundays, but as you can see, this is a very, very sensitive topic, and we wanted to give our guests a chance to come back and finish their presentation. Seated to my left is my co-host, Susta.
Hello, everybody.
And you may remember Mr. Victor Jones from the last show on fourth Sunday, which was last week. He is a domestic violence professional, and he also had a personal testimony that he shared with us. To my immediate right is Miss Doris Stiff. Hi, Miss Stiff.
How you doing?
She's so quiet spoken. I love it. She has a sweet spirit, but you can't tell by looking at her. People say you can't tell what I've been through by looking at me. She has a powerful testimony of surviving domestic violence, and she's going to tell us about it in just a few moments. So we want you to call everybody that you know, tell them to tune in to the Lady T show, www.higtv.com or wigtv.com, and Suddenlink channel 17, so that you can grab a hold of what we're putting out here on this platform. So we don't want to waste any time because, Sister, 30 minutes is just like two. It just goes by so fast when we get going. But what we want to do is we want to start with you, Miss Stiff, and we want you to tell us about your incident with domestic violence.
Okay, now I've been given a challenge of compacting my story into less than 30 minutes. I think I can do that. A lot of people from Tarboro and Rocky Mount areas heard my story before. It happened come December 7, it will be 25 years. When I lived in Charlotte. I was in a relationship that lasted about 3 years, and it ended when he got violent. And just like they say, I did not realize when we broke up that in the breakup, violence does escalate.
Wow.
And he did come back. And when he came back that night, he shot me 7 times.
Oh my God.
So I am a living testimony
to
how good God
7 times.
I was shot 7 times.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was not shot at, I was shot 7 times. The first bullet went here, traveled through my sinuses, and they cut it out on this side. And seriously, I breathe better because I grew up with asthma. I breathe better since that incident. So in the midst of my trial and tribulation, I also got a blessing from it.
Wow.
I was shot in the chest 2 times, my right breast and directly in my chest, and the bullet was my breastbone. Stopped that bullet, not my breastbone, but my chest, one of the rib cages, stopped that bullet. And then when I thought he would stop shooting, I was shot 4 more times in my abdomen and my legs.
He meant to kill you.
Yeah, it was an intent to kill, and that's when I wrote a synopsis of it. When you don't realize when someone has decided to kill you.
Wow.
And a lot of us who are involved in domestic violence incidents, what I didn't realize was that although he had left my home, I was in more danger by his coming back, and the violence escalated.
So you all had broken up?
We had broken up.
No restraining order?
I didn't think I needed a restraining.
He didn't give you any signs that you would need that?
I didn't think there was going to be an after event. I felt like when he had moved out,
that was it.
I was safe.
So tell us about the violence while he was with you.
I only experienced one other incident of violence, and that's why we broke up. I grew up in a home of a mother, father, 7 children, 4 girls, and my mother told all of us, never let a man hit you. And I took ownership of that advice. And so when he hit me, I said, you gotta go, because my mama told me never let a man hit me.
Wow.
And in his leaving, I did not know when he left that violence would escalate. And the reason that I asked him to leave, I had been in an accident, a car accident, and it was a Saturday, and he came into the house. He was upset because he has 3 daughters from a previous marriage, and he had gone to take them a birthday cake, and they weren't there. And he came back upset because he couldn't deliver the birthday cake. And I said, why are you so upset? And I was sitting there with a collar on from an accident. I really needed my collar. It wasn't like I was trying to make money.
Right.
I needed my collar. He yanked it off and tried to choke me. So that was the first incident with violence or what have you. So on that, I told him, I said, you can't stay, and I will give you 30 days to leave.
Wow, let's get this call, Miss Stiff.
Wow.
You're live on the Lady T Show.
Hello, I'm Stephen Moffett from Xylan Insights. How are you doing today?
All right.
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good. Just conducting a study about the election. Do you have a couple minutes you could spare?
No.
Stephen, you're live on the Lady T Show. Stephen? Okay.
I think Stephen left.
So, Miss Stiff, one thing I want to commend you with is the fact that it only took that one time.
Yeah.
Because many times it's several times, and some women don't even make it out with their lives.
Right.
So I want to commend you. And also you said something profound. You said your mother was instrumental in telling you and coaching you in that situation to get out. There are some cases where mothers and aunts, grandmothers will tell you, stay in it. What did you do to make him mad? You got to fix it. You need his help. You need his support. But you recognize otherwise, and I commend you for that.
Thank you. And I wish I had known more. We need to probably educate more about domestic violence. So women and men, because some men are also abused. How to recognize and how to exit, and how to exit safely.
Right.
And not let them back in.
Right.
I had no idea that when I let them back in, that it was going to be a valid experience.
And it makes me think, Lady T, there's a lot of women out here today, when you break away or you walk away, you're thinking, that's it.
That's it.
You know,
That's what I
it's a
thought.
clean break. I'm starting over. I'm going on about my business. You're going to do the same.
Right.
So at what point should our awareness be, should we keep that?
It's got to be foremost, because my mother told all of the 4 girls about not to let a man hit you when we were young, because my mother was deceased when I got into this relationship, so I couldn't even share the problem with her. But early on, she had educated us, do not stay with a man who's going to abuse you. And I took ownership of that, and I remembered it. And I even discussed it with him, that I have been educated that if a man hits me, I am not to stay with them. So don't ever hit me. That's when
You gave him the warning.
I gave him the warning.
Can
No other signs?
Right.
No emotional abuse, no indication that he may do this one day?
There was a
Something building.
there was a fear that I thought he doesn't know how to deal with his emotional
And
problems.
that's key. That's key.
That I realized he could not deal emotionally with his issues. And his job was being downsized. And I knew that was happening, and I was trying to also help him find work and what have you. But he wasn't dealing with those losses well.
How do you know that? What kind of signs did you see? Any verbal abuse or?
Verbal, or more of what are you doing? Like, what am I doing? It was more of
Like more agitated with
like,
you.
what are you doing? And because I was working, and all of a sudden he's losing his job.
And he's blaming you for his issues?
Yeah, well, not blaming me, but all of a sudden things are going well for you and not for me. And you
Jealousy.
know how to handle it.
Got you. Okay.
How was I'm interested in knowing too, Lady T, and I know we're trying to keep up with the time. How was the recovery after all of that had taken place with the shooting and all?
I stayed in the hospital for
Because I'm
about
sure emotionally.
6 days. I stayed in the hospital 6 days. And I had a 7-year-old. And then I even told, because I arrived at the hospital fully conscious. And I had, what happened after he shot me 5 times, I was able to get up off the floor and run outside and run to my neighbor's house.
Jesus, how much?
And thank God, this was after midnight, but she was awake and was able to let me in. But before she could open, I told her not to open her door because he came out. And once again, he came out, stood in the parking lot,
Jesus.
and still determined to kill, and stood just like this and aimed and shot at me 2 more times.
That is, you are a miracle. You're a supernatural miracle. 252-407-1111. Call in if you have any questions for Miss Stith. I want to ask you, Miss Stith, how did when he came back, was it a situation where he came back to talk to you, let him in the house, or he just opened the door? You opened the door, he started shooting?
Well, we were close. He was living there before I asked him to leave. And I had planned on getting the locks changed. I had an appointment to get the locks changed on Monday morning, but he came back on Saturday night. And he had the key to let himself in.
Wow.
But I was not asleep. I was on the sofa when he came in. And I told him it was too late to talk, and I could see there was a lot of anger there.
Right.
And I knew nothing I said was going to de-escalate. But I thought if I could ask him, come back later and everything, and that's when he stood up and said, I told him I'm sleepy. And I was. I had worked all day. And he said, you're going to get all the sleep you want. I have come to kill you tonight. And he stood up and pulled out the gun.
Wow.
And aimed it at me, standing about 6 feet away.
Wow.
I never seen a pistol in my life. And you have to understand, I'm from the farm.
Right.
I know what a shotgun looks like, but I've never seen a pistol in my life.
Wow, you are just. I'm sitting here amazed because when I met you in the lobby, I had no idea that you went through all of this. No idea. And you're married now?
I am a widow. My husband died 4 years ago. But
Okay.
I still wear the ring.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So how was that relationship?
That relationship was fine. When I wrote the story, like you wrote an accounting or your event, I wrote one because people had started asking me 20 years later. I finally documented it in written form. And I gave it to my husband to read. And he couldn't read it. He said, I can't believe this happened to you. It reads like a story. I'm like, no, it's not a story. I put it in details like it happened because I knew I couldn't tell it in terms of like storybook form. I just had to do step-by-step details of how the event actually happened.
Wow.
So he was very supportive, you know, and actually I met him years later after this incident, and I had moved on with my life. In fact, when it happened, I was I was in the hospital for 6 days, and then I was discharged, and I came back home to Tarboro. That's how I wound up back in Tarboro from Charlotte, and I made a decision while I was home that I'm not going to go back to Charlotte. I'm going to restart my life in Tarboro.
Wow.
And that's what I did.
That's where the Lord blessed you.
Yeah.
Now, what was your daughter, son?
My son.
Son, was he there during the attack?
No, fortunately,
Thank God.
it is amazing. This is another one of those providence things because I had worked that day. It was a Saturday, so I had left him with his father because daycare wasn't open. And I went to get him that night. And he said, Mom, can I stay with my daddy and watch the football game?
Wow.
And I said, okay. And normally I wouldn't because his daddy was an alcoholic. So I didn't like leaving him for extended care. But that night, I changed and I said, yeah, you can stay. Which
That was God.
another
God looked out for
blessing.
you. Yes, He looked out for you. Did you have any children by...
No, I
you
didn't.
didn't have any children. Okay.
Now that's another sad, those who do have children, and all of a sudden you got to continue to raise your children, and this is their father.
Right.
And
That's a
my
whole
heart
nother
goes
pill to
out.
swallow.
That's a whole nother domestic violence story. And how do both parents, the father and the mother, make that a healthy experience for the child?
Right, because you got to think about them as well. Ms. Stiff, if you could give the viewers one bit of advice, somebody's out there watching, you're dealing with domestic violence, whether it's verbal, physical, emotional, is some type of domestic violence. What most important bit of information or advice can you give to them?
2 things. Number 1, if you're in that situation, just be watchful and plan for your safety. Conquer the fear of leaving. Plan for your safety, especially plan for the safety of your children. And let me give you all this little story too, because in our communities right now, we've had a flood. Now, disaster always triggers some anxiety. In 1999, when we had the flood here, and I worked with a nonprofit, and I was working at the shelter, so we were working with the families. Beautiful family, a family of mother, father, son, and daughter. We helped them. She needed to get to her employment. He lost his car in the flood. Turned out a church from Friendship Baptist, I think it was, from Charlotte, donated that family a car. Disaster triggers a lot. In the midst of their rebuilding, a conflict broke out, and they said the car was involved in it.
Oh, man.
In this conflict, and this was a young family in their late 20s. The father shot and killed the mother, while the children, who were like 4 and 7 at the time, were in the house. So I'm always worried when we're going through disasters.
Right.
And even when we had these major layoffs now, we as a community, we as families, we need to be very concerned about what is happening and how do we keep people from taking frustration to a level of anger. And when that anger gives them permission to harm someone else, we need to pay attention.
Wow, and I commend you're on the task force, the Nash Edgecombe task force, and I commend you all because you're putting it out there, giving them information about where they can go. Thank you so much, Miss Stiff, and we're going to keep you here with us to comment on the rest of the show, but we want to get to Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones, you were with us the last show, and we did hear a little bit about your personal story, but what we want to focus on tonight is, as a professional, what can you offer? You actually counsel the aggressors, right? So what can you offer to the community as far as your profession?
Well, what we provide is domestic violence abuser treatment. So we're working with the actual abusers, male and female, to give them the skills, support, some insights regarding domestic violence, working through those issues. We're also making sure that people know what domestic violence is. So often people think that a little pushing, a little shoving, that's okay. They think that name calling and arguing and locking each other out of the house, that's okay. But domestic violence escalates. It doesn't start off with the actual physical violence, but rather with some control issues, telling the woman or the man what to wear, who to associate with, what can and cannot be said, those kind of things. And realizing another part of it is helping our clients to understand what it's doing to their next generation. Sometimes people don't realize that their fighting is affecting their kids. And I've heard so many times, this is just between me and her. The kids don't know anything about it. It's not affecting them. But children who are exposed to domestic violence are at least twice as likely to become domestic violence abusers or victims themselves. So what we're providing is the treatment to stop domestic violence where it's occurring. We don't want to just be satisfied with people breaking up because you just go on and start a situation with someone else.
Yes. And that's good because we want to break that cycle.
Exactly.
And that's important. As Ms. Stiff has said, with the flood and how conflicts could arise from that, what is your opinion on that?
Absolutely. Stress, well, sometimes when people are under stress, they may do more of the unhealthy things that they were doing before. So there might be alcohol or drug use. So alcohol and drug use is not an excuse for domestic violence, no way. But people who are not dealing with stress properly can take that out on their partner or on their kids. So, and we're all familiar with terms such as suicide and homicide, but we also have to think of familicide, which is one of the things that I'm so happy with Doris about, was that if her child had been there, unfortunately, there could very well have been an attempt to kill him as well.
Oh, yeah.
So there's so many variables that are involved, but there's also the high risk. One time is too many.
Yeah.
One time is too many. And if we can stop the violence from escalating from the point of verbal disrespect, stop it there.
Right.
Don't even let it go any further. If that person can't treat you right with respect early on, then don't even take a chance if you need to get in counseling. But one of the things that I try to put out to everyone that I can is that once you've crossed that line, you can't go back. You got to go ahead and either get help or get away from each other or whatever, but you can't undo it.
So it sounds like when you start seeing signs of control, if I can control you with what you're wearing, then I'm going to try to push the envelope and control you a little more with something else. And when you see those signs, you need to get
Put the
help.
brakes
You need to
on.
get help.
You need to get, and we're going to give you all the information to get in contact with Mr. Jones and also Miss Stiff as well if you need help. The lines are certainly open. You can call in. I know people might be fearful. Somebody might know my voice.
It's
or,
confidential.
But it will be confidential. And also, Mr. Jones, I want to mention as well, it takes definitely a special training to deal with the aggressor. So we can deal with the person that is on the receiving end, but to deal with the aggressor, to get them to see what they're doing wrong so they can turn it, that's really an awesome profession. It really is. So if in her situation, what would you have told her husband that shot her? What would you have told him if he came to you for help?
After the violence?
After the violence.
Oh, wow. We'd have to start off with the whole philosophy that men have about women. Because so often men have an idea that women are property, that there's something that you own. That's my wife, that's my girlfriend. She's not going to do anything that I don't approve of. And sometimes people actually come out and say that, but sometimes it's in the actions. As I said, in the jealousy, you mentioned the word jealousy, or even in the moving too fast into a relationship, wanting to be everything to her at one time.
Would you say it was rooted, a root or a seed that was planted at a young age? Maybe it could very well go back to his own childhood and watching his own parents or grandparents or something. But we do have a society that tends to be violent towards women.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's part of our
The
society,
election is a prime
unfortunately, and
example
we
of
have
that.
to deal with that part as
Yeah,
well.
I've seen a lot of that in the election.
Exactly. As we're seeing that with the current election that's going on. And
Absolutely.
But Lady T, if I may, while we still have a little bit of time, just so our viewing audience won't get it twisted or confused, there are some unhealthy relationships even with teenagers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
High school students, that are in abusive relationship, can't tell mom or dad.
Right.
Have you all experienced or come in contact with a younger side of this?
We work with teens, and one day we had to, how do you know when a girl likes you?
Right.
And the young man said, when she hits me.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, right away, it's already starting.
It's
early.
right. It's
So we
starting to
gotta-
form.
And I'm
Right.
loving this platform
Yeah.
because we have young people watching.
Yeah, we do.
And that you may not be in a relationship just yet,
Right.
but you need to hear this so that when you do get in a relationship,
You
you
would
know,
know the
the signs. So, Mr. Jones, give them your contact information so they'll know how to get in contact with you.
Well, the company is Valiant Families, PC's Counseling and Consulting, and we have the state-certified abuser treatment program, which is divided into the male and the female part. The male is the MOVE, Men's Options to Violent Expression. WAVE is Women's Alternatives to Violent Expression.
Okay.
We're both working with helping people to get away from violent behaviors.
Okay, and is there a number that they can get in contact you?
Absolutely. Our number is 252-451-4451.
Gotcha. And Ms. Jones? I'm sorry, Ms. Stiff?
The Community Enrichment Organization, 252-823-1733.
Thank you so much. We're out of time, guys. Use that information. You can also contact me, and we'll continue to give them the contact information during the later shows. I want to thank my sponsors, Kingdom Empowerment Ministries, Apostle Emma Dickens, Aunt Brenda, Uncle Norm, Dazzle and Dexter Cofield, and also my sweet little Gabby is watching tonight. Thank you all for watching as well. Thank you, Ms. Stiff and Mr. Jones. We really appreciate what you're doing. And you all out there, we use this platform. Get in contact with them. Don't wait until it's too late and you lose your life. See you back on second Sunday for the Lady T Show.
People in prison in North Carolina. It costs us nearly $30,000 per inmate per year. Programs to keep these same inmates out of prison will cost us $10,000 per year. If we offer programs to just 1,000 parolees, it will save taxpayers $20 million per year. This type of legislation is good sense, common sense, fiscally conservative, and socially responsible. I'm James Gaillier. I'm asking for your vote to represent you in North Carolina House District 25. We can do better for everyone.